Hi, my name is Dr. Courtney Tracy. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a doctor of clinical psychology. This is the Truth Doctor Show. Today I'm breaking down HBO's new series, The Idol. And listen, this show is out there. It is watched by 800,000 people. And I do feel like it's my responsibility to debunk some of the things that are shared in this show, explain some of the things that are shared in this show. So without further ado, let's get into it. Normally I just read this disclaimer and then we move on with the episode, but it really does need to be noted here, and it should have been noted in the disclaimer for the episode itself, that this episode is not just going to show violence and sexual content, it's going to show reenactments of physical abuse in a sexual nature. So if that's something that is overwhelming for you or something that could trigger you or upset you, then this video might not be the best one to watch. I mean, this is just, I want more plot and less oral.
You see that young lady over there?
Yeah.
Got anything in the store as beautiful as she is?
I think we can find some things.
Great.
Are these a 7?
Yes, I believe so.
What's up with this guy over here? What's his story? Let me catch you looking at her again. Let me catch you looking at her again. Stomp you. I'll fucking curb stomp you.
I'm sorry.
I'll fucking curb stomp you.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you were interpreting, but
Let me see
I wasn't
it.
doing anything.
I'm not sure what you were interpreting, but I wasn't doing anything. That is a really good line because what it implies is that Tedros is perceiving his environment and the situation that he's in a way that most people wouldn't perceive the situation to be going. They have made it really clear that Tedros is a character that experiences a certain level of narcissism in order for him to feel the way he feels about himself, the world, and the people in it, and the way that he treats those people. There are two categories of narcissism used in the clinical field. One of them is grandiose narcissism and one of them is vulnerable narcissism. Grandiose narcissism is someone who has this really intense, inflated sense of self. This type of narcissism is typically characterized by extroversion, dominance, and attention seeking. But then there's also vulnerable narcissism, where the person is doing everything that they need to do in their environment to keep themselves safe and to prevent themselves from feeling any sort of negativity about who they are and what their status in life is. When we see how Tedros is reacting to this man who made a subtle, neutral comment that any customer service person would use, Tedros sees this as a threat to his own superiority. He sees it as a threat to his ability to control Jocelyn, and he sees it as a threat towards his ability to be in command of the entire store and the entire situation.
I'm really scared this guy, Tedros, is just like taking over the fucking house.
Gun.
God.
He's taking control of the house, like, mentally.
I know it might be hard for you to digest this right now, but I'm running the show.
Okay. Sure, but I still have to talk to Jocelyn.
Right.
Look,
Oh
so
my
much better.
God. Oh, you look amazing.
So much better.
A threat. That's another threat to him.
Boundaries.
My family are doctors.
Are you a doctor?
No, I'm not, but my sister and my father, they're both gastrointestinal doctors, so.
My friend's a gynecologist. You don't see me sticking my finger in everybody, do you?
Now listen, Tedros doesn't have a bad point that he's actually making here that did feel a little bit unnecessary. It's not really on him to decide if it's unnecessary. It would be on Jocelyn to make that decision. But obviously he has control over the entire environment as well as how she behaves and how people behave around her and towards her.
There's nothing okay about what this creep just fucking did, right?
He says boundaries.
Boundaries.
And then he goes and just physically slaps the person across the face. This is really indicative of somebody who has really overwhelming internal issues and tries to solve those issues externally instead of addressing them within himself.
Let's cancel the tour.
Think, why are you saying this? The tour's gonna make millions of dollars. What happened?
Millions of dollars. Right now, she's making me have IBS. I'm fucking more blood than a kid at Epstein's Island.
Has she ever looked?
There is a point where if you are going to bring up something as heinous and as vile as what took place on Epstein's Island, you don't do so in a joking manner in any way, in any context. When you are writing about traumatic experiences, those that are not your own, whether you've experienced something similar or not, you have to consider whether or not you're doing it with tact and proper intention. I mean, it's just sickening. Like, what the actual fuck was the point of that?
Why do you like picking out clothes so much?
Just need some taste, that's it.
You don't think I have taste?
No, really, no. Last couple days, you had a lot of taste.
Tedros is doing something really interesting here. There's typically a process of narcissistic abuse that allows people to enter into these types of relationships without being aware that it's really happening. The first step of this process is ideation. This is where the person who has narcissistic traits or a narcissistic disorder makes you feel really good about yourself.
Trailers to mansions. That's you, right?
That's me.
To the point where you want to be around this person more. They're making you feel positive. They're making you feel worthy. They're making you feel powerful. However, this relationship has now started to shift to devaluation. She has formed an attachment to him. And now this attachment is shifting to be an attachment with somebody who is devaluing her, who is making her feel as though she can't make good music, she can't pick out nice clothes, and she cannot make decisions for herself.
You know what I think it is? I think you're gay.
So see, he uses sex as control and he uses sex as power. When Jocelyn said that Tedros was gay, you could see the change on his face.
I ain't gay.
She had the power in that situation and he was being criticized. People who have narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder really struggle with criticism, really struggle with being called out for anything negative about themselves or anything being said that could deflate their sense of self. Quick note, there's nothing wrong with being gay. Happy Pride Month. I'm right there with you. And she was saying it in a way to upset him. And now he is using his main form of control, which of course is fear, but secondary to that is sex, to put Jocelyn back in her place.
She's throwing away World-Class Sinner, the only fucking song that's actually selling the fucking tickets?
I think I'm sorry, it's hard to hear. We're at the studio.
It's so interesting how everyone in this industry just lies to one another. They live in a facade. They live in a made-up world of lies and schemes in order to continue pushing forward. Because the reality is, everything's pretty messed up on the back end. And I think that's part of what this show is trying to emphasize. He's so threatened. Tedros is so threatened by this because these are also people in a position of power in Jocelyn's life.
It's really impressive for someone who's self-taught.
I mean, it's almost unbelievable.
I know, almost.
I mean, really, like, to what do we owe this good fortune?
You grew up in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Wow, me too.
No shit.
Yes, born and raised. Wow, what school did you go to?
I wasn't the best student, unfortunately.
Okay, so, you two keep doing what you're doing. 3 songs in 2 weeks, yeah? Hits. Not songs, hits. I gotta tell you, nobody fucking believes in you right now.
Whoa, come on.
No. She has to know the truth. I fucking love that guy.
It's amazing.
I think our girl's in trouble.
Yes, she is.
My grandmother said you never trust a dude with a rat tail.
He is completely encapsulating her into his world, while Diane is actually working with Nikki to move forward and doing the things that Jocelyn wants to do. And what Tedros says he's moving Jocelyn towards when he's actually not. And this is devastating for Jocelyn.
Why don't you sing about your mom?
I don't know, I feel like it's
Mom.
I feel like the more you let people in, the more reason they have not to want you anymore.
Jocelyn's talking to Chloe about her mom, and Jocelyn says a very blanket, generalized, potentially core belief that she has about the world, and that's that the more you let people in,
The more reason they have not to want you anymore.
If a client said that to me, the first thing would be, tell me about your relationship with your parents. Tell me about your first attachment and whether it was a healthy one or an unhealthy one. Did you feel like as you started to develop a sense of self and a sense of identity that you were accepted as that self and that identity, or were you rejected as that self and that identity? Because that would play very easily into the belief that the more that you let people in, the less they want you. My next inclination would be to ask about, if that wasn't the case, relationships. What has happened over your life where you have let people in, gotten vulnerable, physically or psychologically or otherwise, and then they have rejected you or turned their back on you in some way? People are not born with the belief that the more that you open up to people, the more that they will reject you. That is something that is experienced. That is something that is conditioned, where you begin to believe it because the signs repeat to you that this is the truth and this is reality.
Was it really hard when she died?
Okay.
It's weird. It's like she's still in this house. Like she's in all the walls and all the windows and all the mirrors.
And all the mirrors. Just caring for
I just
Chloe.
can feel her, like she's still watching me.
Grief is something that lingers. It's something that lasts. It's something that impacts you and changes how you function, the way that you perceive yourself and the world forever. And this can happen, honestly, regardless of the relationship that you had with that person. We know that Jocelyn's mom was at least a mean mom.
Of course, my mother was nice to me.
So regardless of the type of relationship that you have with someone, whether it's extremely positive and you grieve the love, or it was extremely negative and you grieve the love you didn't get and the pain that you got in its place, you, your body, your brain, and your mind have to grapple with that loss. And that adjustment can go well, that adjustment can go poorly. It really depends on the supports that you have, the overall experience with that individual, and the way that you feel about yourself now that that person is gone.
End of the day, it's whatever the fucking label and Jocelyn wants.
What do you think about I'm a Freak?
Not enough of a reinvention, fucking manufactured bad girl.
Manufactured bad girl.
All right, let's say you had carte blanche, right? What would you do?
Let's say you had carte blanche. They put that in there for a reason. It's carte blanche. And I believe that the reason why they had Tedros say this in the way that he did is that this is a front. Tedros' sense of self is just as manufactured as Jocelyn's persona of a bad girl.
I would take that photo with the fucking on her face and I'd make it her album cover.
You're fucking smart. Wanna do some coke?
Tedros is for sure going to pull in Xander. And how do we know this? One, he's doing the same thing to him as he did to Jocelyn, complimenting him, emphasizing that his skills can be seen by someone like Tedros. Secondly, he immediately offers him substances. You are great. Let me help you feel great. And let me make sure that you associate feeling great and being great with me.
Sing with me on this next one, then.
No.
No.
If Tedros heard you say that, you'd be in huge trouble.
Why?
Because by saying no, you're denying yourself an experience.
Okay, Robert Plant had a son who died when he was 5 years old. And he wrote All My Love after that. And it's one of the most beautiful songs ever written.
So you think that by losing his son, he was able to write something that saved a lot of people's lives?
Yes.
And because of that, you'll say yes to anything anyone asks you to do. Would you kiss me?
Would I kiss you? That's not a good idea.
Good question, Jocelyn. Good question.
No, Tedros would fucking kill me.
The title of last week's episode was, Is It Love or a Cult? And I want to talk about manipulative behavioral tactics when it comes to how Tedros convinces these individuals to have a new perspective on themselves, the world, and behavior. Saying yes to things in life because you want to have new experiences is completely valid. However, the problem is that Tedros is using these positive psychological concepts as a way for people to engage in behaviors that are actually beneficial primarily for him. Yes, it's helpful for human beings to expand their possibilities when it comes to the direction of their life. It's also important to note that he has convinced them to say yes to anything other than something that would upset him personally.
You know, Tedros would fucking kill me.
And they don't quite see this control and power that Tedros has over them as a problem because he has made it seem as though he is caring for them in a very similar way to how many parents end up saying, well, I'm providing you all of these things and providing you this lifestyle, and therefore you need to go throughout the motions of life, believing only what I tell you to believe and doing only what I tell you to do.
But I just wanted to say thank you for coming into my life and filling it with music and inspiration and love.
To finding your family.
To finding your family.
To finding your family. Masking overwhelming pain can make you feel happy. And it's okay to distract yourself, to minimize your feelings sometimes, to ignore your feelings sometimes. We all need a break, but she's also losing what she really wants at the same time and isn't seeing it. The best form of healing is the type of healing that doesn't take away anything more than you have already lost.
We should take the photo with the on your face. And we should make it your album cover.
No,
Why?
absolutely not. So many young girls look up to you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they've all probably seen the photo.
Yeah, okay, but it's different if you like embrace it.
So what, it's only okay if the internet like uses it against me?
If the industry is allowed to take aspects of someone's personal life and use it to their advantage, whether that is through making an article that says she's allowed to do whatever she wants, or making an article that says, look at what she did, she should not be doing this. Either way, Jocelyn's correct that they are capitalizing on it.
They're all capitalizing off of it, and they're just driving more people to look it up.
That's exactly why you should make it your album cover.
But not only is Jocelyn a role model, we don't really know how Jocelyn wants to portray herself. We don't really know how Jocelyn sees who she is in the world, what the purpose is of her life, what the meaning of her music really is. And they're not advising her to figure that out for herself. They're just advising her to take this persona and perception that the industry or the perception of her behaviors have created for her and to run with that. There is no one saying, Jocelyn, what is it exactly that you want to do?
I'm not sure I want to restart the whole like jizzrag Jocelyn hashtag.
Who gives a fuck?
Because it's actually humiliating and like.
Why?
Because I want to be. I want to be taken seriously.
Okay, this is good.
Yeah, but Joss, this is like the right risk at the right time. You've got great
There's
people.
no such thing as the right risk at the right time. If it's risky for a reason.
Okay.
Why are you talking to me like I'm like new to the music industry? I'm not. You are.
Her pushing back even more. Ah!
What was the last song you wrote, Jocelyn?
You can see that the moment that she starts to make him feel bad about himself, he has to move forward with devaluing her or controlling her physically, which we saw in the dressing room, or psychologically, which we see here right now, where he starts to feel insecure and immediately he does whatever he needs to do to make Jocelyn feel insecure, or to at least try to get her to feel insecure. And I find it important to note that Jocelyn has slowly been sort of experiencing more confidence in herself and pushing back on Tedros to a degree. Jocelyn was very much controlled by her mother. And so having her mother no longer in her life, Jocelyn is seeking this sense of autonomy. And so she is probably starting to feel this sense of confidence that he has wanted to instill in her. But now it's turning out to be confidence that's detaching her from him and making his ability to control her less.
You make superficial music because you think about superficial things.
I'm sorry, I don't think it's superficial to want to make music that connects with people.
Not at all.
Right? Like, okay, what do you think is relatable about me?
All the dark shit you've been through in your life?
I think the dark shit I've been through is pretty fucking unique, too.
Yeah, I would agree.
He knows.
Her mom is like a rare breed.
Mom again, mom again. Oh, Leia knows something too.
Baby, there's nothing that you're gonna reveal to me right now that's gonna make me love you any less. I think I speak for everyone at the table when I say that.
That is exactly what Jocelyn needed to hear. And it is critical that we acknowledge that Tedros probably knew that. Maybe Chloe told Tedros what it was that Jocelyn said, or maybe Tedros has figured out enough of the psychology of Jocelyn where he knew that that was the right thing to say. He placed Jocelyn just now, not only in a vulnerable position, but also in a position of power as long as he's right next to her. And this is a pattern that we see over and over again, where he says, I understand you, you're safe with me, move forward.
Her favorite was probably hitting me with a hairbrush.
Why'd you do that?
To focus. She did it as like a form of motivation, I guess. She'd do it if I overate, if I didn't exercise, or if she ever caught me smiling to myself.
You didn't fight back?
No.
Why not?
Because there's just some battles you're never gonna win.
Is there a part of you that wonders if the reason you're stuck is because your mother's not around?
Don't answer it. Don't give it to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isaac, you should take her to bed.
Yeah. Right?
All that trauma, you're gonna turn into inspiration. You're gonna tap into it. This is really gonna hurt. But if you push through the pain, it'll be beautiful.
Thank you for taking care of me.
First, a message to anyone who actually watched this episode and has been through anything like child abuse, child neglect, any form of traumatization from a caregiver, any type of traumatization or abuse from a loved one or a partner. The psychological damage of these actions and these situations that people find themselves in is too delicate and too important to show in the way that it's been shown. In the New York Times article that I read this morning, they mentioned Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. And in it, she specifically states,
I think I earned that title through the writing of the book, but I wanted it to be something that would grab people's attention and get them to pick up the book and then hopefully learn by the end of it why I have chosen that title.
More power to her. This type of experience should be fully in your control to do with it what you will. The issue I'm having here is that this doesn't appear to be the story of anyone who is sharing this story through this series, The Idol. And if it was, I really feel like it wouldn't be shown in the way that it's being shown. These are important things to talk about. There are people who have been in traumatizing situations or traumatizing relationships where their body, their brain, and their mind become used to a certain level of functioning, a certain level of neurotransmitters and chemicals in their body, a certain level of people around them, a certain level of pain that may come from the traumatic experiences that they have. When we come from those backgrounds, it can sometimes feel more safe and more secure to be in more dangerous and more insecure situations than the opposite. Throughout this series, we have seen Jocelyn minimize her pain in many ways, saying that that photo of her that was released could be worse, discussing the glass breaking in between her thighs as not a big deal to Leia, being willing to engage in trauma reenactment for the potential benefit of her career.
So you miss it?
Getting hit?
The motivation it gave you.
These are not behaviors that always happen as a result of trauma, but they are behaviors that can happen. We can engage in self-harm, we can engage in substance use, or we can find ourselves in abusive relationships. This does not in any way say that the responsibility to not enter into these relationships depends on the person who has been abused and or will be abused again in the future. Let's talk about why some people may actually move forward with engaging in trauma reenactments, whether this is a conscious decision or not a conscious decision. The first reason why somebody may engage in trauma reenactments is because they want to master the experience for themselves. And it's important to know that there's a distinction between whether or not this mastery is something that's occurring in a maladaptive way or something that's occurring in an adaptive way. There are certain modalities, for example, exposure response prevention, where you are slowly exposed to the thing that activates fear, anxiety, stress, or overwhelm within you. So we can overcome phobias this way, we can process traumas this way, or overcome grief this way, whether that is through remembering things that were difficult, remembering the good times, or exposing ourselves to the difficulties and allowing our physiology and psychological responses to adjust. Even when this happens in an adaptive way, it's never an exact reenactment of the trauma. For example, someone who's been through really intense sexual abuse may go through exposure response prevention by slowly and incrementally exposing themselves to massage therapy. So they may slowly get used to having somebody else touch their body in a very safe environment and a safe way. Now, maladaptively, it can be seen in cases where people have been through trauma, where they actually end up being the abuser of that trauma onto someone else. So there are different ways that you can engage in trauma reenactments, either adaptively or maladaptively. When he says, this is going to hurt,
But if you push through the pain, it'll be beautiful.
that sounds so much like parents who say to children, I hit you because I love you. That is despicable behavior. No one deserves to be abused or traumatized by anyone. And you do not need to experience abuse and or trauma in order for you to make something beautiful. Overall, this episode was overwhelming, difficult, and really just like, these are great conversations to be having, but just like the New York Times article noted, they're not diving deep enough, soon enough into the psychological aspects of this show. They've teased us through 3 episodes now, compiled and filled with random sexual scenes that honestly don't add to the plot. I really hope that it turns around to a degree. But regardless of whether it does or not, you have me every Thursday breaking down these episodes and shining light on the important messages that should exist in this show way more explicitly than Jocelyn's body. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Please hit that like button if you liked it, and let me know in the comments below what you think about my reaction and of this show overall. I'll see you next Thursday, and as always, I'm so glad that each and every one of you exist.